When you build your HMI application, chances are you won't end up with just one page. Even if the whole process or machine fits neatly in a single screen, you'll probably still need extra pages for settings, diagnostics, statistics, and so on. So how do you actually create one? It's actually quite straightforward. Right-click the folder that contains page 1 and choose Insert New Page. This opens up a dialog where you can name your page and choose its type. For now, I'll just leave the defaults and hit OK. And there we go, a brand new blank page. To tell pages apart, I'll add the label with the page title. Then I'll repeat the same for the second page. So, how do you switch between pages on the panel? The simplest way is by adding a button, but instead of just linking a Boolean variable to it, we can do a lot more. First, it's important to understand that objects in Panel Builder can generate certain events. The second concept is actions. You can assign actions to events, and that's how you build an event-driven system. I know it sounds a bit abstract, so let's get back to our button. A button can trigger several events, but the one you'll use the most often is on mouse click. This event fires when you press and then release the button. If you click the plus icon next to it, you'll see a list of actions linked to that event, which is empty for now. And then there is a catalog of standard actions you can use. Since I want to change the displayed page, I'll open the page group. And the first action, load page, is exactly what I need. I just select the page I want to load, hit OK, and then OK again. Now we need the same button, this time to go back from page 2 to page 1. I'll simply copy the existing one, paste it onto the second page, change the label, and update the action. Then let's start the simulation and see how it works. As expected, we can easily jump back and forth between the pages. Okay, it's nice and all, but in real project you rarely have only 2 pages either. I don't have an exact number in mind, but let's say 8 pages will do for our little project. Give them proper titles and then create 6 more buttons for pages 3 through 8 on page 1. And repeat the same for the page 2. By now you probably start to see the problem. It's not very efficient to copy and paste the same set of buttons on every page. And if you ever need to change something, you'd have to go through each page and update it manually. Thankfully, there's a smarter way to handle this. It's called templates. If you go to the corresponding folder and click Insert New Template, you'll see the same new page window as before. The only difference is the page type. Let's name this one Navigation Template and click OK. It looks just like any other new page we've created so far. Now let's take the navigation buttons from the page 1 and move them into this template. Add the missing button for page 1 and then go back to page 1 itself. In the page properties, change the template settings from None to Navigation. Now you can probably see why templates are so handy. Apply the same one to all your pages, and just like that, you got a consistent navigation system throughout your project. And that's not all. I usually give the screen a darker border when working in simulation mode. And the template is the perfect place to do that. Alright, enough talk, let's run the simulator and check it out. Do you see it? Now the screen border is clearly visible and doesn't blend into the white background. The navigation system works exactly as intended. I'll admit, it's not the best HMI navigation in the world, But don't worry, this chapter isn't over yet. Let's take what we've built and make it better. Move this group of buttons outside the screen area. It's a handy trick if you don't want to delete something yet, but don't want to get it in the way either. Next, go to the widget gallery under Basic Controls and find the horizontal gray tab widget. Drag it onto the canvas and position it on the page. If you check the tabs property, you will see how to configure all the labels and the actions triggered by the mouse click event. I'm confident you can handle this one on your own. Now we have a nice tab bar that you can adjust to your page. You might want to move it to the bottom so it doesn't cover the page title, although the tab labels can serve as page titles themselves. In the property window, you can adjust the minimum button size so all the tabs fit the width of the page. If you choose custom styling, there are tons of options to tweak the appearance of the widget. How does it all work? Let's try it out. It's actually pretty straightforward. With this widget, you can see which page is selected, and all the settings are gathered in one convenient place. Of course, this isn't the only way to build a navigation system for your panel. Depending on your project, you might prefer a narrow and deep navigation instead of broad and shallow one, or even combination of both. For example, you could use a main tab bar to represent categories and secondary bars for pages within those categories. Or go with the menu system, or just simple back and forth button if scrolling through all the pages is acceptable. The bottom line, planning is key. Before you start creating pages and designing navigation, make a simple mockup. Sticky notes representing pages work perfectly. Think about information the operator will need and how they can access it quickly and intuitively. Speaking of intuition, over years of using computers, websites, and apps, the human brain gets used to where different interface elements are usually located. When something appears in an unusual spot, it causes subtle psychological discomfort. Users often can't describe exactly what's wrong, but they can definitely feel it. This phenomenon is perfectly illustrated by website heat maps. These are overlay images generated by software that tracks mouse movements, clicks, and sometimes even eye movement. Of course, this isn't exactly the same as an industrial HUI, but it still gives us clues about what people look at, where they click, and how their attention moves across the screen. One clear takeaway: users expect navigation elements to appear in the header and somewhere on the site, either left or right. So let's put that into practice in our project. First, add a rectangle from the Shapes folder. This will act as the header background. Remove the stroke color, set the height so it can fit a button, place it in the top left corner and stretch it to the full width of the screen. Next, I'm going to optimize our previous setup. Instead of having a button for every page, we'll switch to home, back, and forth buttons, along with a collapsible menu. Bring a button with an icon onto the header and resize it to fit nicely. Pick a color that works well with the background. Instead of typing home or something similar, it's much more intuitive to use a house icon. Anyone who's ever used a web browser will immediately understand that this button takes them to the home page. There are many sources for icons nowadays, but I like use Material Design, a set of high-quality open-source icons created according to Google's guidelines. You can get them directly from Google or from various aggregators online. Type home in the search field and pick the version you like. How about home outline icon? You could use a PNG image, but working with vector graphics is easier. So let's go with an SVG file. Back in Panel Builder, change the icon image property to the file you've just downloaded. Remove the stroke color and set a fill color for the icon. Just like that, it's starting to look like a proper home button. Now let's give it some functionality. Go to the page group and select Home Page. Currently the home page is page 1, which is indicated by the blue house pictogram. Back and forth navigation buttons are created the same way. Find left and right arrow icons on the website, duplicate the home button, change the icon to arrow left and change the action to previous page. Do the same for the next page button and change the action to next page. Now we can test it. Go back, go forward, go home. Everything works perfectly. We've got basic navigation in place, but let's take it a step further. A menu that lets you jump directly to any page. Rather than adding it to every page with a template, we'll make it collapsible. And here is how. Using dialog pages. Also known as pop-ups. Right-click the dialog folder and select Insert New Dialog. It's the same dialog window as before, but this time with the dialog type selected. Let's name it Menu Pop-up and click OK. Now you have a dialog page with the default size of 350 by 300 and some predefined buttons that just close the dialog. We won't be using them, so select everything and delete it. Let's make the dialog page look more like a menu. Change the height to 480, the full height of the screen, and the width to 200 pixels. That should be enough for a menu item. Disable the title bar for the dialog. The runtime position settings tell the panel where the dialog should appear when we call it. I want the menu to appear on the far right of the screen, so the X and Y coordinates of the top left corner are 600, 800, minus the width of the menu, and 0 respectively. Enable runtime positioning. Next, let's create the menu items. Essentially, these are just a set of buttons like before. When a button is pressed, we want it to load the respective page, but it should also close the current dialog. To do this, add a second action in the action list and choose Close Dialog. Since we want to close the dialog that's currently in use, the default option selected is exactly what we need. Finally, prettify the button and duplicate it so every page is covered. Good, the menu is ready, now we need to call it from the navigation template. Copy and paste the home button and move it to the right end of the navigation bar. Pick an icon that makes the button easily recognizable. I think 3 vertical dots will do the trick. Change the button's icon to the one you've just downloaded. Finally, change the on-mouse click action to Show Dialog and select the dialog menu pop-up. Go to the simulation and see how it works. And yes, it works. It does the job. But there is a small problem, or rather a small complaint. The menu isn't really separated from the underlying page. It blends in too much. If you take out your phone and pull down a quick menu, you'll notice the background becomes dimmer and slightly blurred. Our brains have gotten used to this behavior for pop-up UI elements, and it would be nice to have the same effect on an industrial panel. We can't quite recreate the blur effect, but let's try at least dimming. Go back to the menu dialog and change its size so it covers the full screen, 800 by 480. Move all the buttons to the right side of the screen. Instead of relying on the page's background color, drag in basic rectangle shape. Resize it to cover the entire screen and move it to the lowest layer. Remove the stroke color and set the fill color to a very dark shade, maybe even black. The main trick is the opacity of the rectangle. A value of 1 is fully opaque, while 0 is fully transparent. Make the rectangle's opacity about 0.7. Now that the dialog covers the full screen, set the runtime position to 00. And remember to remove the page's background color. Let's check it out. Nice! You can see a clear separation between the dimmed background and the brighter pop-up menu. Looks much cleaner. Just one last adjustment. Move the page buttons down a bit so they don't overlap the menu button. 55 pixels is plenty. That's looking much better. And that's all for today, folks.